Rob Scott is the Managing Director and CEO of Wesfarmers, Australia's largest company, encompassing some of the country's most iconic brands, including Bunnings, Kmart and Officeworks. As well, Rob did his Masters of Applied Finance at Macquarie University. Welcome, Rob Scott. Rob, Managing Director and CEO of Wesfarmers and silver medalist in rowing at the Atlanta Olympics in 1996. Which was tougher to arrive at?
Well, gee, I guess I'm the 8th CEO of Wesfarmers over 110 years. So I guess there are fewer CEOs of Wesfarmers than there are silver medalists. Yeah, both challenging, but both very rewarding experiences. Hard to say what was harder, I guess. The rowing certainly was more painful. A lot of pain for 6 minutes and 20 seconds, I guess, whereas the Wesfarmers journey had been over many decades of preparation.
Do you think sport set you up to be successful in business?
I think in some ways, I think you learn about hard work, you learn about resilience, you learn about teamwork and goal setting. So all of those things, I think, certainly set you up well for business.
What are the crossovers there?
In elite sport, you wake up every morning trying to be the best in the world. You might not always be successful, but if you're competing at that level, you really aspire to be the best in the world, and you need to train very hard, but you need to work very smart. And you need to surround yourself with people that share that passion to try and be the best in the world. And you're always looking to surround yourself with people that can make you better, make you perform better. And rowing's the ultimate team sport, I believe. So it's not just about how you perform individually, but how you perform as a team. So I think a lot of those analogies apply equally in business. The business world that we operate in today is increasingly globalized. So in order for us to be successful in Bunnings or Kmart, we're competing against some of the biggest and best retail companies in the world right here in Australia. So if we want to be successful in our businesses, we need to aspire to be the best in the world. So working with teams of like-minded people with that passion and that ambition, I think, is very similar to the experience in sport.
You're among a family of Olympians. Can you tell me about the family?
I'm the least successful Olympian when I think about my wife and I. So my wife Liz is a very successful Olympian. She won a gold medal in water polo. The first time women's water polo was at the Olympics in Sydney. And Liz was also very instrumental in getting women's water polo into the Olympics. So she's been an outstanding athlete and advocate for sport. My kids are following in their parents' footsteps, both interested in quite unoriginally rowing and water polo as well. Now they're emerging athletes. They are in the underage teams for Australia in rowing and water polo, but seem to be enjoying themselves and obviously have aspirations to represent their country at the Olympics, but time will tell.
So Rob, early life, your parents were school teachers and you changed schools a lot.
That's right. So both my parents were school teachers, so that really instilled in me the importance of education, which was, I think, very important for my life. But one of the things with your parents being teachers is, as they were developing their careers, it meant moving around the state, out into regional areas. So we spent time in Kalgoorlie, places like Dumbleyung in the wheat belt, and I went to school and boarded at Narrogin for a while. And I think I went to 7 schools all up, both in Perth and throughout the state. But I think that experience of moving schools, meeting new people, having to adapt to new environments was probably quite a formative experience in my life.
Wesfarmers, what's it like being in charge of Australia's largest company?
Well, I think it's a great privilege and an honour to lead Wesfarmers, but with that comes a great responsibility. We're a big business now. We have 120,000 team members. We have a lot of very significant businesses that are just so important for the Australian and New Zealand economy. We now have international operations. So I'm very conscious of the responsibility that comes with that. Yeah, we can make a really positive difference in many ways in terms of the jobs we create, the value we deliver for our customers, not to forget the benefit for our shareholders and the broader benefit to the economy and the communities in which we operate. So big responsibility, but something I'm very proud to do.
What's a typical day for you?
I get up pretty early in the morning. I know it's a bit cliched as a CEO to say you get up early in the morning, but I'm pleased to say I used to get up early in the morning before I was a CEO because that's what rowers do. So I generally get up about 4:30. I check the news, I check what's going on around the world, I respond to any emails from the previous day, then I go and exercise. So try and exercise for at least an hour in the morning.
Every day?
Pretty much every day. I normally have one day off a week. And that's as much for mental health as physical health, I would say.
When you say you exercise, do you go to the gym every day or do you have your own gym?
Yeah, I have my own gym. It's often on the rowing machine or the bike or just doing some weight circuit or a bit of yoga and things like that.
What does that do for you?
Well, I think, as I said, it's as much a mental break as it is a physical break. And look, I genuinely believe that the healthier you are, the more effective you can be in what you do. Like, I know from my family, I'm a much more pleasant person to be around when I've exercised and I'm feeling healthy. And I think the same applies to how effective you can be in the workplace. So I really enjoy trying to be fit. It's a bit of a battle, but I try and do that. And I think as a CEO, you've always got to be available. You've always got to be aware of what's going on in the business, but it is also important to take a bit of time out. You can't operate at 100% all the time. You need to have a bit of downtime, but I would generally work most days and always be aware of what's going on most of the day.
So when you say most days, that's 7 days a week?
That's right. And look, on the weekends, depending on what's going on, it might only be a couple of hours here and there. There's a lot going on across our businesses and around the world.
And when you say that you do look out for your downtime, what is your downtime?
Well, certainly exercise is a big part of it. You know, I also do love spending time with my family. My kids are now both in the US, so we do try and travel a fair bit to spend time with them. So I love traveling, love exercising, love spending time with my family. And, you know, as time goes on, I try and, when I do holidays, try and do more active holidays as well, which I find is quite therapeutic.
Do you think you've got the balance right?
I don't know if balance would be the right word. I don't think my life is very balanced, but it works for me. It works for me. And I think that combination of having a bit of downtime makes me a lot better at what I do in the workplace. I don't know if balance is the word, but I've found some kind of equilibrium of sorts.
Fantastic. A work in progress, perhaps, at finding balance?
It's always a work in progress. Yeah, you can always do a better job.
So you did your Masters of Applied Finance at Macquarie University. What are your memories of that time?
I had a fantastic experience with Macquarie University. I was working with Deutsche Bank at the time, and I was fascinated in finance and really wanted to extend my knowledge both technically but also do a postgraduate program that was very practically orientated. That's where the Macquarie program was very powerful. So we had the opportunity to attend lectures in the Sydney CBD, which was very convenient when we were working in the CBD. And I really enjoyed not only the expanding my theoretical knowledge of finance and capital markets, but a lot of the lecturers and professors had fantastic industry experience. So being able for them to share their own practical experience was really important. So it was one of those programs that I used to genuinely look forward to the lectures. I found them very interesting and inspiring, and it was a really good experience.
So you have clearly a love of learning.
Yeah, I think that learning and education needs to be a lifelong process and experience. And when you step back and think about how fast the world is evolving and the impact of a lot of new technologies, you have no choice but to keep learning. And I think my rate of learning today is probably greater than it's ever been. And we share that view across our broader leadership team at Wesfarmers. And one of the leadership characteristics that we really look to is the capacity for people to learn. The capacity and the real interest and desire to learn. So if I take things such as generative AI, well, that didn't really exist 10 years ago in any meaningful way. So we're all having to learn as we go. And it's really difficult to be able to make good business decisions in today's world without having a really deep understanding of how that operates.
How do you think that landscape's going to change over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think it has very broad applications, and we can only predict and guess what the applications will be, but I think one thing for certain is there will be changes and applications that we haven't even thought of. So I think the way we think about it is that generative AI is just a very powerful capability. It's a capability that we can bring to business to change our ways of working, to upskill what we do, to really add a lot of value in roles, whether it be helping our team members do their jobs better, so giving our teams in Bunnings more information on the products that we sell, whether it's helping our customers search the variety of products that we sell, or whether it's helping our teams research new opportunities. So there are many, many different ways that will be applied. But once again, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. We need to think about how we utilize the data security and privacy, and also some of the potential unintended consequences. So it's not just about thinking of this as an enabling capability, it's also making sure we have a very responsible approach to managing AI.
Wesfarmers has a very keen interest in the arts and is a great supporter of the arts. How did that come about?
Well, Wesfarmers' involvement with the arts goes back decades. I think it was in the late 70s that we first started to get more involved with the arts. Our involvement with the arts is multifaceted. So we support a lot of arts organisations in Western Australia. So the WA Symphony Orchestra, a number of other organisations such as the Art Gallery of Western Australia. We also support national organisations such as our partnership in Indigenous art with the National Gallery of Australia, the Australian Chamber Orchestra. There are a number of opportunities, and I guess the reason why we support the arts is firstly, if businesses don't get behind the arts, a lot of these organisations wouldn't be able to operate. I think there is a responsibility for not just governments, but businesses to provide support. We also recognise that vibrant communities and society benefits from having a really deep and vibrant arts community.
Can you tell me a little bit about how the BOEB project came about?
Well, for the last 10 or 20 years, a lot of our focus on the arts has been very much focused around Indigenous art, which is just such a unique element of Australia and something that we're all very proud of, and we really want to showcase the amazing talent and excitement of Indigenous art. So as part of our 100th year anniversary, we commissioned a set of aluminium BOEB casts that were created by 15 artists in the Kimberley. And as people would know, the carving of the BOEB nuts goes back generations, thousands of years. 15 artists carved the nuts, and then they were formed into casts, and then we created these amazing aluminium versions, some of which have found their way into various galleries around Australia. So that was just a great example of a commission that really profiled some of the great work that Indigenous artists are doing.
If you had any advice to students of the business school at Macquarie who might be looking at one day being a CEO of their own company, what words of wisdom would you impart?
Well, it might sound a bit cliched, but when I look back at my time at university and that learning experience, they are some of the best days of your life. So make the most of it. In terms of the opportunity to learn, you'll be far more effective in your life by learning as much as you can. So think of learning as drinking from a fire hydrant. Embrace it. But then as time goes on, you'll find things that you enjoy, you love. And then my advice would be to then go very deep and focused in those areas, and find something that you love, where there's a passion, and really try and be exceptional at what you do. Because to have a rewarding life, and I'm not just talking about career, but to have a rewarding life, I think there is something special about trying to achieve something in whatever you do, whether it's art or sport or work or the community. Find something you're passionate about and get really deep and into it. That would be my advice.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.